what's the most impactful line in human history? Is it Neil Armstrong's moonwalk, the famous soliloquy of Hamlet, or is it...
I'm trying to sneak around, but I'm dummy thick.
You probably know Kojima for his quirks.
Giggity giggity do!
But there's a method to this madness. As it turns out, his writing is a total melting pot of influences, pulling all the way from old school anime tropes to classic James Bond films. In order to fully get his writing, you have to understand the influences and ideas behind the man who made it.
You might as well kill yourself now!
But before we get into that, I just want to thank you for watching this video, and make sure to subscribe if you haven't to become one of the devout fishes in my pond. It's your core here, and welcome to the pond, because we're diving deep. Starting with the inception of the franchise, we can see how a lot of the decisions made during the production of Metal Gear Solid affected the rest of the franchise. The main ways the game's story is communicated to the player is through cutscenes and the codec, during which all the motives, exposition, and comedy take place.
Be so cute.
Now, this was probably due to the limits of the hardware at the time, which massively restricted the ability to have complex and lengthy cutscenes, which often resulted in the majority of it being communicated in these long, drawn-out info dumps, which had to tell you everything that was going on at any given moment. And I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. While the subsequent games had more cutscenes, even then, exposition would be saved strictly for them, forcing the pacing to be pulled to a complete stop to explain everything. Additionally, unlike today, lore couldn't be presented diegetically through the likes of voice memos and letters, so what was being explained had to be both efficient and clear. So that's why you see so many lines like this.
We're going to launch that nuke and ride it all the way into history.
On top of being very limited in how much he could communicate, what Kojima could write had to pass on the meanings of his games in very explicit means. All of this reinforced the fact that you were playing a video game rather than actually committing acts of espionage, which may have played a factor in his writing as well.
Look around in first-person view mode.
Now obviously Kojima is Japanese, and these characters are speaking English, so in the translation process, intricacies are bound to be lost. What further complicates this is the fact that the first two translators kinda hated Kojima as well. Yikes. Despite all the hurdles, we can see how these early limitations would ripple out through his various games. I mean, for example, just look at his naming conventions. Why name a character the Fear? Cause he's scary. Porter? Cause he moves stuff. You get the point. It serves as either a basic overview of their character or a very simple metaphor about them. Everything in the game serves a purpose. Like, why have Boss say,
"He's my apprentice. I'll take care of him."
Because I haven't played any of the other games, so I have no idea who these people are. But you would have thought, as time progressed and technology got better, that this would change. But you'd be very wrong. This didn't alter how Kojima wrote his stories, it just expanded it. Now, we can have hour-long cutscenes with in-depth explanations, bigger spectacles, and oddities that just kind of exist. One thing that's important to note, however, is that the games never acknowledge their campiness. Yes, they're aware of it, but by denying the player that relief of acknowledging it, they allow the world to feel more cohesive. They're not constantly winking at the camera as an out, rather they're forcing the player to accept and adapt to the rules of the world they're inhabiting.
At least use a picture of me instead.
What?
Yet that's not everything, because we also have to understand where these ideas come from. Kojima is a man who loves his art. He's extremely passionate for film, music, and novels, inspired by authors such as Kobo Abe or J.C. Pollock. In addition to Western media like James Bond, Escape from LA, and more, which influenced how Kojima would write, and especially the themes of his works. In Metal Gear specifically, we can observe thematic similarities, such as separated twins, government espionage, and those damn cardboard boxes. But most potently, the anti-war messages inspired by the likes of Godzilla and Planet of the Apes. When you observe all the media he consumes, it's very apparent that much of it uses absurdity to effectively communicate its message to the audience. As such, it follows suit that when Kojima creates new narratives, he would obviously do the same. As he famously once said, he's 70% movies. However, since so much of his influence came from less than stellar productions, he would end up adopting such quirks into his own work, such as the over-the-top characters, intensely dramatic cutscenes, and theme songs for the titles of his games. And most blatantly of all, being a Japanese man, anime would play a very important role in his life. Which, if you've ever seen any anime, because everything is hand-drawn, exposition would be delivered in these long dialogues and over-the-top explanations of the world and characters, which you may have noticed Kojima's taken to heart. Through the mixture of these influences, Kojima would create what I have come to call complicated simplicity, where he has these very difficult ideas in his head, Yet he makes sure to almost oversimplify or explain them to the audience to make sure they can follow along with the story. By understanding the influences behind his writing and the technological reasoning behind his presentation decisions, it becomes clear why Metal Gear games, and to a larger extent all of Kojima's work, have some very off-putting dialogue. Spending years consuming media gave Kojima incredibly complex and absurd ideas, but the friction between his massive ambitions and technological restrictions is exactly what created these comically crazy yet iconic dialogue sequences. So that's all I really have to say. So if you'll excuse me, I have to go check my Amazon packages for government devices. It's Yukoi here, and I'm out.